Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of InRange. Today we're going to mud test the Hi-Point Firearms Model C-9. It's chambered in 9mm Luger and is generally derided by the entire firearms industry and community as a piece of junk. It is cheap. These guns are sub $200, but I don't know what to say about that, and I'm not going to go ahead and say it's junk. Back in the Old West, everyone thinks about Colt single-action armies and all these expensive guns that would take a month's of salary to purchase. The reality is the average guy was walking around with a cheap Iver Johnson or knockoff Belgian pistol shoved in their pocket or in their pants. This is the equivalent of that. And there are some people in our society that are not rich enough to buy an expensive Glock or an HK VP9 or even maybe the new Hudson 9, but they can afford this, and they have a right to self-defense just like anyone else does. So we're going to load up one magazine, we're going to fire it at the target, make sure this is working properly, and then we're going to dump it in the goo. This gun does not win awards for ergonomics. All right, sights are not great. However, I hit a number of times there at about 10 yards. Gun works just fine, locked open as it should. We're going to load the magazine and we're going to dunk it in the mud. These happen to be 147 grain, but just because I have them laying around and I'm using them today. I don't even know where I got them. Georgia Arms. Not sponsored, not free, just had it. All right, so we've got a loaded magazine, pistol. It is empty. I'm going to go ahead and put an earplug in the barrel just to prevent mud from getting into the barrel. A lot of people ask us, do you have to remove, or say you have to remove the earplug from the barrel before you shoot. This is not a barrel obstruction, it's just keeping mud from getting in there. A barrel obstruction is what you'd be worried about, but a little earplug is certainly not that. So we jam that little guy in there, just to make sure we don't get mud in the barrel. Magazine inserted, round chambered, safety on, and like other pistols, we're just going to drop it in there. Ooh, there it goes. All right. Safety is actually very easy to find. Here we go. All right, 2 rounds. They are to go into battery. They are to go into battery. Trigger's dead. That's it. All right, so looking at this a little further, I think we know what's going on. The safety's off, and I'm running the action. And without a magazine, it feels dead because the Hi-Point has a mag safety. So when you insert the magazine, that's when the trigger should come back to life, and it feels identical. My guess is, and I don't know exactly, but my guess is that filth got behind that mag safety, and it's causing the trigger to be dead because it feels the same way with or without the magazine in the action, which should disable the magazine safety. And since it feels identical, I think the magazine safety has been essentially corrupted by the filth, which is a good example of why you probably don't want mag safeties, and I'm pretty sure that's what happened here with the Hi-Point. All right, so we normally don't do this, but we ran water over the Hi-Point just to see if we could clean some of the filth off since it's a borrowed gun. And after running water over it, it actually started working again. So we're gonna load another loaded magazine and see if the gun's working. So this is post-mud, rinsed off with water. That trigger was weird. It went off when it shouldn't have. All right, well, one weird trigger pull, but a little bit of water actually got that going again, and that I really think that confirms. I think we're dealing with a disabled magazine safety. Some dirt got behind it, and running water over it got it out of the way. So, hey, you know what? Tip of the hat for the Hi-Point. Usually running water over it makes it worse, but in this instance, it actually kind of made the gun run again. If you like this kind of content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. It allows us to do things like borrow this and put ammo through it. If you can't, please consider just subscribing to our channels on YouTube, Full30, and Facebook, as well as sharing these videos with your friends.